Hello, this is Maxine Moore with news from the Wichita Eagle.
Maxine Moore spends every Friday morning reading the paper. Not that that's all that unusual, except that she reads it out loud and over the radio.
And I thought, this is a way that I can do a service for someone and for a lot of people, really.
WRRS began broadcasting with volunteers like Maxine back in the 1970s. What amazed me was the fact that these volunteers read cold and make very few, if any, mistakes.
Says alien rock could sell for up to $700,000.
But when they do make mistakes, they can be pretty entertaining too.
It was when Ronald Reagan was president, and one of his cabinet members was Donald Regan. So I was trying desperately to not get the names all mixed up. I was concentrating on that, and the phrase that I was supposed to read as part of the story was Ronald Reagan's presidency. And I just went right through it and said Ronald Reagan's pregnancy. And I realized immediately, and I apologized and got it corrected as best I could. By the time I got off the air, the telephone was ringing. Listeners were calling in, laughing.
Maxine is one of about 150 volunteers, some of whom have been reading over these airwaves for more than a quarter of a century. Maxine has been reading for the station for 26 years herself.
I used to read the newspaper specifically to my grandmother, who was almost blind. And she loved to hear the news. Everybody likes to hear the news. And even if sometimes you don't like the sound of it, you still want to know what's going on.
Jerry and Donna Ekman have been avid WRRS listeners for the past 7 years. Both are legally blind.
It helps us to know a little more what's going on.
In fact, the Ekmans like the station so much, they record some of the shows when they aren't able to listen and play them back later.
Two don't talk about basketball.
WRRS is a closed circuit radio station, which means listeners have to have special fixed tune receivers in order to hear it. WRRS loans those tuners to those who need them for free.
You know, a lot of them live alone, and our service is the only conversation that they hear for the better part of the day.
When WRRS first went on the air, only the daily newspaper was read. Those readings were recorded and played back throughout the day. Now volunteers read magazines, novels, both local and national newspapers, and just about anything else. One of the things the Ekmans really like is the fact that volunteers even read the advertisements.
Basically, the grocery ads are the main thing that I record because
otherwise we just turn it on and listen.
and that way she can play them and then write down what we want.
In 1976, the service had 35 listeners and 10 volunteers. Today, the station has over 3,500 listeners and more than 150 volunteers. WRRS listeners are extremely loyal, too.
I was at Symphony several years ago and visiting with my husband during the intermission, and a woman behind me recognized my voice. I was glad to know that somebody remembered my voice.
Listeners include anyone with a visual, physical, or cognitive handicap, which limits their ability to read 14-point type or their ability to turn the printed page. Those handicaps include, but are not limited to, macular degeneration, low vision, stroke, blindness, paralysis, dyslexia, arthritis, and even Alzheimer's. For some of these listeners, it's their only link to the outside world.
People have thanked me for reading the obituaries because it's the only way that they get to know what's happening to some of their friends.
This signal can be heard within an 80-mile radius of Wichita, and receivers can be found in nursing homes, senior centers, and hospitals like Wesley Medical Center and Via Christi. This station broadcasts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
What do you get out of it? Why does this mean something to you?
It's something I like to do, and I enjoy it. I like it. And to me, it's one of the best volunteer jobs I've ever had.
Do you think in the long run it's helped keep you sharp too?
Oh, sure. Oh, you bet. Yes, yes, yes.
That's
After learning of the forthcoming sale, tribal leaders have spoken up. As long as I can keep reading, as long as my voice doesn't give out, I'll stick around if they'll have me. We thank you for listening, and until next time, this is Maxine Moore for the Wichita Radio Reading Service.